Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Lane Kiffin getting it done on the recruiting trail. And I feel like so many times we talk about Lane Kiffin and recruiting, it has to do with the transfer portal. No, he's getting it done on the 2024 recruiting trail, adding Jeffery Rush, which it came together very quickly. This dude is a top 100 dude nationally, an absolute grown man, and a very, very good get for Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels that not a lot of people were talking about. This is a big-time get. Before we get into it, we're going to talk a little bit about how Lane Kiffin is developing this roster. He put so much emphasis on the transfer portal for a couple of years and now seems to be coming back and recruiting the high school level pretty hard. But I just want to say thank you to you guys. You know, we have a blast talking talent acquisition and roster building, and there's no better case study for this than what Lane Kiffin is doing with Ole Miss and how he blends acquiring talent through the transfer portal and the high school ranks. So we appreciate all the support you guys have shown. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. I'd love to hear what you guys think about how Lane Kiffin is getting this talent onto this roster and how he's constructing this roster, because I think it is very fascinating. We talk about it a lot. And again, appreciate all the support you guys have shown. Let's get into Jeffery Rush first, and we'll talk more about how this Ole Miss Rebels team is looking in 2023 and what they're doing to acquire this talent. Jeffery Rush, the first thing you see, he's a grown man, 6'3", 250 pounds. Again, this kid is a junior in high school. And the biggest thing I see when you watch this film and highlights is very versatile. And kind of going back to what Pete Golden did at Alabama, he had a lot of versatility on the defensive line at Alabama. No doubt that's what he really likes in a guy like Jeffery Rush. 6'3", 250, but you could see him coming into Ole Miss at 270 pounds. You could see him maybe even getting up to 285, 290 because he's already a big dude, or staying around 250, 260 and playing off the edge. But again, a dude that could play that 3-tech, could play that 5-tech outside the tackle. Very versatile. He's a phenomenal athlete for his size. And again, a lot of programs wanted him. You see Miami came with an offer. Florida State came in with an offer. Auburn was also on him pretty good. And Ole Miss ends up winning it on the recruiting trail here. The next thing I kind of want to talk about is how big of an addition Pete Golden was to this program. Pete Golden was under Nick Saban for a long time. Well, Nick Saban, obviously the GOAT, one of the best to ever do it. Pete Golden did a damn good job at Alabama, and Ole Miss was able to get him over here. You're going to get a phenomenal recruiter, and I don't think it's going to be that rare now for Ole Miss to start winning some of these recruiting battles on the recruiting trail, like a guy like Jeffery Rush, where you go toe-to-toe with these other SEC programs and go pull it out. Pete Golden's another guy that I think the development's going to be there, and you're kind of sneakily seeing Ole Miss, for all the kind of air raid mentality a lot of people see Lane Kiffin as. If you watch that team last year, that was a much more physical team than we saw. I mean, they wanted to run the ball with Christian Jenkins. They had a phenomenal offensive line and a pretty solid defense that I think is continuing to get better and will get much better under Pete Golden. But you're seeing an Ole Miss team that it wasn't like the gimmicks and speed that was winning them football games. It was the physicality and the strength of that team. And I think that's something Lane Kiffin is kind of going towards as he's developing this roster. Now, taking a look at the 2024 class, how it stands, again, very early, but another top 16 class now with the addition of Jeffery Rush. You have your quarterback in Demond Williams, who really interesting prospect out of Arizona, a little bit short. Not a lot of schools wanted him, but I think that was a good get. Chris Davis just committed the other day as well. So it's coming together. Top 16 class with only 5 commits in the class. But what I want to talk a little bit more about is this 2023 class. And we're going to talk a little bit about both the high school ranks and what they did in the transfer portal. This was one of the better classes Ole Miss has had under Lane Kiffin. And I'm not saying you see the rank, top 20. That's solid. That's nothing special. I think Ole Miss could do better. But you notice that. I think they only had 20 guys or only 15 guys signed in this class. So it could have been a much better class, but they're being relatively selective in how and who they're offering from that high school level. Suntarine Perkins, he's going to be a freak. And you talk about guys who are – I think you have 2 guys in this class, and you really never know because Christian Jenkins comes in as a 3-star and takes over that backfield where you had Zach Evans, who was a former 5-star. But if you're asking me about some of these true freshmen who can be impact players in 2023, Suntarine Perkins is a freak. Like the size and speed that this guy has, there's a reason he's a top 15 dude nationally. And you're seeing Ole Miss win some of those recruiting battles in the state of Mississippi. There's a lot of good talent coming out of that state. And if you're the best player in Mississippi, come play at Ole Miss. Suntarine Perkins, phenomenal get. Aiden Williams, again, that wide receiver position in my mind is wide open. We'll talk about a few of the transfers that you got in the portal, but Jonathan Mingo, Malik Heath, both moving on to the NFL. I think that wide receiver room is open, and a top 100 guy like Aiden Williams is already 6'3", 200 pounds. I'd be not very surprised if he's one of those kind of contributors early. And that's something we'll be watching the spring game. We'll be recapping the spring game. We actually watched Ole Miss's spring game last year, and you guys showed a ton of support for that, so we appreciate it. But we'll be back watching the spring game again. I'm really excited to see how these true freshmen look. And then getting into the transfer portal, that's what I wanted to get more into, because Lane Kiffin is like, he's still going to hammer the transfer portal, and that is a very solid way to fill in the holes. Now, do I think you can create a program just on transfer portals? No, I do not. Do I think Lane Kiffin hammered the transfer portal early in his tenure at Ole Miss to get immediate impact talent? I sure do. I think he'll use the transfer portal more than most, but I think the most effective way to use the transfer portal is just to fill in the gaps. Hey, we really need a right tackle because we have a guy coming in, but he's young. We don't know if he's going to be ready yet. Okay, go get a right tackle. I'm not a huge fan of getting like 5 starters on both sides of the ball, all from the transfer portal. Don't think it's a very sustainable way. I think you got to recruit that high school level, develop that talent, and have them be starters for you. But I do think it can be kind of a, I don't know, like they say with diet. So you add your protein shake. You're not going to drink all protein shakes, but you're gonna supplement through the transfer portal. I think that's what Ole Miss is doing. Going on a little tangent about health there. Monty Montgomery is the first. There's 2 guys at linebackers I want to talk about: Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste and Monty Montgomery. If you remember Chance Campbell coming in for Ole Miss, coming in from the portal, I mean, you talk about a stud middle linebacker that can fly around the football field and make tackles. They might not be NFL dudes, Monty Montgomery or Jean-Baptiste, but they're guys at UCF. I mean, Jeremiah Baptiste was extremely productive. Monty Montgomery as well, both veteran guys who've been around the sport a lot. They're going to be very productive for Ole Miss next year. But all my eyes are on 2 positions through the transfer portal. One, the pass catchers. I think Caden Prescorn was a very good get at tight end. But Chris Marshall, Trey Harris, an under-recruited cat from high school. A lot of programs wanted him in the transfer portal, 6'2", 205. But Chris Marshall, I mean, this guy was the 3rd best wide receiver in his class, a top 25 dude nationally in the 2022 class. Didn't really get to play at Texas A&M. That offense was kind of a joke. If you're talking about guys who could give high upside, Chris Marshall could certainly do that for Ole Miss in 2023. And then the quarterback battle. I just think there's not many head coaches who are going to have a starting quarterback on their roster. They can go out and get Walker Howard. That made sense, right? Get some competition, especially when you had Luke Altmaier leave. And then they go out and get Spencer Sanders in the pool. You got 3 starting caliber quarterbacks in that quarterback room, all fighting for one job. And I'm really interested to see how that spring game plays out. Jackson Dart, Walker Howard, that made a little bit more sense. You have 2 younger guys who have some eligibility to work with. And then you had a guy like Spencer Sanders who, in my mind, wouldn't be coming to Ole Miss if he didn't think he'd had a damn good shot at start, because this is last year of eligibility. So I'm extremely excited to see what Spencer Sanders can do. And if they have a very similar offense, which you'd assume they would from 2022, I think Spencer Sanders might be the best quarterback to run that offense, right? Using the athlete that Spencer Sanders is, a big body, phenomenal athlete running the football, also can push the ball down the field. That seemingly would make a lot of sense, but I think Lane Kiffin got it right in the sense you got 3 really talented quarterbacks in that room. One of them is going to be good. One of them is going to be ready to start week 1. I hope you don't see like we have 2 starting quarterbacks coming into week 1. I don't think that's the best way. They did it last year. I wasn't a huge fan. I think it was Jackson Dart all along. But again, wanted to break down not only the commitment of Jeffery Rush, but just recapping how this roster is coming together. We'll go back into summer scouting and going a little bit deeper of a dive into this program, but appreciate the support you guys have shown. Again, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.